Hikaru, congratulations.
Thank you.
You're back over 2,800, which I don't know if that even was on your mind or not, but it's good news. We've been talking about it all day.
I mean, I guess it's something. I mean, I didn't really think about it until the end of the game. And it's, you know, I think it's sort of, it's one of these things where you sort of flash back to like the past. I've had a lot of these like memories that pop up in recent times. And I remember the first time I broke 2,800 was actually during the Zurich Chess Challenge. I won this very nice game out of preparation against Sergei Karyakin. I went out for a nice dinner, and the next day I lost, I think maybe my only loss. Maybe I lost one game later, but at least it was my first loss to Vishy Anand the next day in this Queen's Gambit decline. So I actually remember quite well the first time that I broke 2,800, but still, to get back there is obviously quite nice.
We're hoping it's not followed by a loss again this time around. If you don't mind, I mean, we have many questions for you. There's obviously some chess going on. We'd love to get your thoughts, maybe first and foremost, on Magnus Carlsen's game with Alireza Firouzja, not because we're going to neglect the Armageddon game fans, but because obviously Magnus is trying to push, and we'd love to see whether Hikaru thinks that Magnus might have a chance to convert on that. We're going to pull it up, and we can see on the monitor here.
Yeah, so okay, so the time is 740 versus 250. That's the first thing. I think if Alireza had a half an hour on the clock, he would draw this pretty comfortably. But the time situation is not in his favor. So that's the first thing that I don't like about it. That being said, it's actually quite hard. I'm trying to think how white progresses, because the line that I'm thinking is like h5, king g7, king f5, but I think black can maybe even just go h6 here, and I don't actually know how you're supposed to do anything. Okay, we get king f7 instead, but we'll get king f5, rook b7, and black just shuffles, and how do you do anything is actually a big question.
And we gotta try
one
to grab
second,
the board
I'm being told that they still see us on camera, so we don't have the board up yet. So that was awesome, and we got to see everything Hikaru was saying. David's over here highlighting while Hikaru's analyzing. Oh, now we've got it. Okay, we've pulled it up. All right, we're gonna get to it. So.
Yeah, so I mean, king f5, and then rook b7, rook c7 forever, and how does white do anything is the question. I mean, I think Magnus, knowing Magnus, having played him a million times, he's going to do something stupid. He's just going to he's going to put the pawn on g3, play some moves, then put the pawn on f4. Like, he's going to make sure this does not, the critical moment does not happen right away. That's the first thing. Like, he's not going to go f4 and g4. He's going to go g3, make some rook moves, then try to see if there's something, and then maybe push f4, maybe push g4. So we have many moves before this gets critical, I would say. But I'm actually struggling to come with a good idea for white. If you can't do anything other than put the king on h4 and play some g4, I'm very skeptical this can actually be winning, honestly. Yeah, I would say, looking at it, Alireza's moves seem pretty obvious to me. Just shuffle the rook back and forth. I think what he's thinking about here is whether he should play h6 or not. I mean, I think probably h6 is fine, but I would most likely just shuffle rook b7, rook c7. Oh, he does it. Okay. I mean, this, there's the famous Levon. I mean, of course, Levon's not the only one to say this, but when you push pawns forward, they can't go backwards. And I remember actually during my time working with Gary as well, one of the things he said about Magnus is Magnus loves it when someone pushes their pawns forward, just in general, because they can't go backwards. So. Yeah, I mean, this should be a draw with perfect play, but, it is Magnus after all, and we have a long way to go. Actually, I know what he's going to do. He's going to put the king on h4, go g4, and then he's going to work the king back. Yeah, he's going to eventually put the king on h4, go g4, then work the king back, put the rook, on d5 or something, and try to do something. That's what's going to happen. Whether that happens in 5 moves or 30 moves is the big question.
Okay.
But, I mean, I would say this should be a draw. Because I'm struggling to find a situation where Alireza has a move that's not obvious. I mean, basically is to keep the rook on the 7th rank and just shuffle. So because of that, he should be able to build up probably 1 to 2 more minutes on the clock, I would think. Yeah, so he plays rook c7 right away. And that's the thing, is that it's not a situation where Alireza's moves are difficult. He really only has one plan, which is just sit on the 7th rank. So
that helps him.
Yeah, that helps him tremendously here, tremendously. Yeah, I mean, I think that this is a draw with correct play, obviously. But, I mean, we have a ways to go, so who knows.
And, Hikaru, can we get your thoughts on some of the other games?
Sure, yeah. There's only one other game, right?
There's the Pragg game versus Fabi, and then the Armageddon battle. If it gets spicy, we'll check in with you in June and Hubby Canero. But, okay, what are your thoughts on Prague's winning chances here?
So once again, what is the time situation? 12 to 1. I mean, again, obviously a draw with correct play. But let's see. So here, or wait, no, Fabi has 12 minutes. Never mind. If Fabi has 12 minutes here, I'd be very surprised if he loses this. I mean, I assume the idea here is to go knight g3 and knight f5 if you can. I actually think there's more chances of a win in this one than Magnus's game, actually. I mean, if Magnus had white here, I think he would win this. Let's put it that way. I've seen him swindle so many of these sort of knight end games. This should be a draw, but I don't know. I have this feeling that Pragg might win this game. Maybe. I don't see, because unlike in Magnus' game, in this one, there's no obvious moves for black. Like, so Fabiano doesn't have any obvious setup. Now, luckily, is the 12 minutes versus Pragg with only 1.5. But there's no obvious setup in knight and pawn endgames. Generally, there aren't basic fortresses or basic concepts for ways to save the game. So this one, I mean, I'm sure it's a draw according to the computer, but I don't feel good about it for Fabi. I don't feel good at all about this one. This one, I think there's a high chance of it being decisive in White's favor.
Especially if he can lure Fabi into mutual time pressure, perhaps.
Right.
Okay, well, I feel like we jumped right in. We probably buried some of the leads in terms of talking to you about your tournament. So let's do a little bit of that, because I know you're busy and you worked hard already today. You are the defending Norway Chess champion right now, and you're leading the tournament in clear first here after 5 rounds. Is there something about being in Stavanger? Do you like it here? Or are you just feeling good here? Or what can you say about what your chess has been over the last couple of years here?
Well, I think, first of all, the rounds are quite late, which is nice. No other tournament in the world, I think, has rounds that start at 5 o'clock, which is definitely, I think, to my advantage. I'd also argue it's to Magnus's advantage as well. I know he likes it when the rounds start very late as well. So probably the late round helps, but just in general, it's a very nice place. The people are very, very welcoming. And also, frankly, I've been here so many times over the years now that, in a way, I don't want to say it feels like home, but it's somewhere that I'm very comfortable with. So yeah, it's just the vibes are good, and I feel like I've played pretty good chess. I also think you know, my opponents are feeling a lot more pressure than I am, and I feel like every tournament I'm surprised when that's the case and I do well, but I just enjoy playing, and it's good because I don't play that many classical tournaments as well. So for me, it's very fresh. Whereas I think for some of the other people like Fabiano, who's probably going from here to like a Grand Chess Tour to St. Louis to God knows how many tournaments in a row. I mean, it's very hard to actually enjoy chess when you're playing it day in and day out every single month. And for me, I don't do that anymore. So I think that helps a lot as well in terms of just being very positive.
I wanted to ask you, Hikaru, about some of the thoughts you mentioned in the confessional booth. First of all, thank you for doing it. We all love every appearance in the confessional, and we are rooting for you to go back 2, 3, 4, 5 times a day. Some of the players started copying you. Thank goodness you started that trend. But some of the thoughts you mentioned today were actually really tough for you from the human perspective of facing Ding Liren. Can you elaborate on that? And do you think he will be able to find himself?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very strange because Ding is someone that I have not played against since I played him in the candidates in 2022. But frankly, even before that, I mean, just having played him over the years, you get a certain feel for how people are, and he just seems like a completely different person. And, you know, obviously I've seen what people have said. I saw what Magnus said even about him being like permanently broken or something along those lines. But it's still very strange to see it in person when I compare that to the Ding that I played against in 2022 or the Ding who crushed Magnus actually in that rapid tiebreaker in St. Louis, and I think it was 2019. So it's just surprising to see. I think for me, the hardest thing is just staying focused on the game, because obviously it started to feel like at some point it wasn't really about the game. And, you know, it's difficult, but still, I mean, it is a competition. You have to stay focused.
Yeah, and Hikaru, I know yesterday you hiked up the rock. I hope I'm allowed to share that. Do you feel that Norway now, having won last year, you mentioned it's your home, do you feel that this is the year for you as well?
Well, I mean, there's more rounds to go, but I'm in a very good position. I think in general, when you start a tournament with double blacks against the top 2 players specifically, and you're able to avoid losing in the classical portion at least, that sets a very good trend. When I combine that with some of my wins and the fact that I have 3 whites and 2 blacks in the remaining games, I mean, I would guess I'm the odds-on favorite, but, you know, I'm just here to play and have fun, so we'll see how it goes.
Well, it's going well so far. I have one more chess question because it's been a storyline that we've been diving into. We'll bring up the bird's eye view just so everyone can keep an eye on the action while we talk with Hikaru. Looks like Anna Musichuk, it might be on her way to winning her game. And by the way, Vaishali and Lei Ting-Jie already drew their game as well, so they're headed to Armageddon. But Hikaru, one of the themes that we've been talking about through the first 5 rounds, I want to get your take on, because it feels like we talked about the confessional booth, which we do love, and part of the reason you've been able to be there via your own admission is that you've been a little bored at times out of the opening because you're getting prep maybe from the candidates. You're getting positions that you seem to be well prepared in. But mine and David and Anna's observation was you seem to be doing that very well right now overall, that you've been guessing your opponent's openings or choosing the right opening for Armageddon. Is there something to that? Do you think we're right in terms of that observation? Do you feel like you're doing a good job guessing what the right opening is for the right opponent at the right time in general right now?
I mean, without going into specifics, I think I think what it comes down to ultimately is my approach to chess is very, very different than it used to be. I think one of the reasons, for example, that I've scored so well against Fabiano over the last couple of years is because I want to say that the openings that I played or the approach that I had became very, very very plain and very predictable, I felt like, between, I would say, 2017 and 2019 specifically. And the way that I play now is very different. It's something that I think basically none of the other top players really try to do, which is I try to play and have fun. I would say most of the other top players are much more concerned if they go and lose a game in 15 moves and look like an idiot. It's kind of the end of the world if that happens to me. It's not that big of a deal, frankly. So I think my whole approach has shifted. I think some of the players like Fabiano, they've struggled a lot to understand it. For example, in his C-Squared podcast, I know Fabi was very critical of this first game of the candidates where I played this E5 line, basically saying it's insane to prepare something for one game. But again, that sort of comes back to the approach and how you go about chess. And for me, I'm not studying chess anywhere near as much as I used to. I stream most of the time, and I'm busy with many projects. So my approach is quite different. I think a lot of the top players have struggled to adapt to that, and they're kind of just not ready for it. That being said, today I got a little bit lucky. Because I was playing against Ding, who I think is probably one player here who was unaware of a certain game that was played in the French team championship with one of the people that I worked with for the candidates. That would be Niels, of course. I think that Ding wasn't aware of that game, whereas I think, for example, today, if I had this against Fabiano or Magnus, they for sure saw that game, I think. By
the way, speaking of Fabiano's game, you called it. You said this was going to be harder to hold than it looked, and now it looks like he might be up against the wall. Why do you think the computer is saying that White is potentially winning now? What do you see?
Oh, is there King D4? Is there a Zugzwang?
Oh, he found it. You're right.
There's a Zugzwang, I think.
How did you just spot King D4? What is the Zugzwang that you know there?
No, but the thing is, none of the pieces can move. Like, if you look at it, where can Black's pieces move? You can't go King F6 because of Knight H6. You can't go Knight F6 because of Knight H6. You can't go H5 because of Knight G7.
And if King F7, King E5?
King E5, King G6, King E6. This is getting very, very dangerous. I think this might just be lost, actually, for Fabi now. Yeah, I think this is actually just going to be lost.
Wow.
I mean, like I said, this is the sort of thing I feel like I've probably seen this 100 times in Magnus games, where you get some endgame, one that's not like a rook and pawn, but like something like knights, and there's a little bit of maneuvering. So it looks, very, very impressed by Pragg. I'm actually a little bit surprised from Fabiano because he's in a situation where he had the time. If it were the other way where Pragg had 12 minutes and he had 1 minute, I could see this, but he was the one with 12 minutes, and this looks winning for White. I think this is just winning, actually. What do you do? Oh, and there's actually, I just realized it's even beautiful. King D7, King E5, King D8, King E6, King E8. You can probably just go G5, takes, King F8, G6, King E8, G7, and you just lose.
That is wild.
Actually, the knight is stuck.
The knight's stuck on G8.
Yeah, this might just be winning for White, actually. I think this is just winning for White.
Just going to put that line on the board very quickly. I tried to follow with arrows, Hikaru, but just in this position, you mentioned Zugzwang, basically.
It's just over.
Yeah.
And then King D8, King F7, and the knight is stuck.
Zugzwang.
Beautiful.
This would be the second loss for Fabi in classical chess in a row, and you are playing against him tomorrow, Hikaru, with the white pieces. How do you approach the game, and what do you think it means for Fabi when it comes to being the world number 2, but not really doing very well here at the moment?
Well, I mean, I think I'll approach it like I approach any game, obviously, which is just to try and play good chess from the start. Don't have anything specific in mind right now, but you know, he has lost 2 games in a row, so we'll kind of see what happens. I mean, I guess he hasn't lost yet, let's be clear, but it looks very likely that he's going to lose the game. So just try to approach the way I always approach his games, which is just play without any stress and enjoy myself. I mean, I know most people don't believe that, but I just try to be competitive, and if I win, I win. If I don't, I don't. But who cares?
Well, whether they believe it or not, the results speak for themselves. I don't know how else to say it. And you're playing well right now, and it's enjoyable to watch. I would keep you here and just keep analyzing with us, but I also know that you.
I mean, I can answer a few more questions.
Okay, cool.
People have questions.
Well, we'll keep an eye on this game. I definitely want to know if Pragg converts or not, but we'll keep talking here. So the
He didn't play King F6, did he?
He did. He's allowing knight takes H6.
He has just played King F6.
Knight H6, game over? What?
And Pragg has just
Wow.
played knight takes H6.
No, I mean, I get that he's going to get the knight active with knight E7, but I mean, this is just winning.
He just put his head in hand. I think he missed it.
No, you know, this is one thing, actually, that I don't, I mean, not to be critical of Fabiano, but it is the one thing I would say is that he is, out of all the top players, I feel like he makes more of these double question mark, like crazy blunders than anybody else when, sometimes when he gets low on time. And I think that is one of his big weaknesses. Like, I feel like Magnus and I obviously blunder less, but I feel like even when I look at some of the other top players like Nepo, you see far less of these, like, just complete lapses in the same kind of way that you see from Fabi. So it is tough to see, obviously. I mean, especially, you know, in the candidates, I mean, Nepo, myself, Fabi were all so close, and we weren't able to get the job done, but it is what it is.
Coming back to that, because Gukesh ultimately did win the candidates and he's playing against Ding Liren, just to circle back to Ding Liren, what possible advice could you give or think to give someone in Ding Liren's spot? I mean, have we ever seen anything like this from someone who reached the pinnacle of their sport, right, achieved his goal and has been here? So, I mean, I know that I'm not trying to draw an unnecessary parallel, but you have been playing the best chess of your career over the last few years from the perspective, as you've said, that you are more relaxed. As you said, you're here to have fun. You're enjoying the game. What could Ding do to get back to enjoying the game? Because when we watch him, it's not even just that he's playing bad. It's painful because he's not even enjoying it at all, and you can see it. So what would be your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so first things first, I think Pragg missed a win with knight f7. I think knight f5 was just winning on the spot. This might be winning too, but I think knight f5 might have been cleaner. Also, I think Pragg won a game in Viker somewhere in a very beautiful knight and pawn endgame against Ding. Speaking of Ding as well. So Pragg has played some of these great knight and pawn endgames. But back to your question, yeah, I don't really know what's going on with Ding. Like maybe it's just the psychological pressure of having become the world champion when, I mean, most people assume that Magnus is still the best player in the world. So perhaps that's part of it. I really don't know what it is, but it's just very bizarre to see. And I would say that barring some huge change, I mean, I think right now Gukesh is a massive favorite to win that match. I would say, I mean, I said it before, even without the results of like the last round or this round, but I don't think that match is going to be close. And the more I think about it, I think it's very likely going to be in Gukesh's favor. So I don't know. I don't know what he can do. Not sure, really.
Yep.
Maybe he should become a streamer.
Maybe he should
Just a
become.
I mean,
suggestion.
it's fun to make jokes, but I mean, at the end of the day, I would say, I think, you know, I don't think it's as simple as saying, like, he's playing bad chess. Like, I could lose the next 5 games, and I could be in a very bad mood, but that just means I'm playing bad chess. It feels like there's something more going on. So it's easy to make the jokes, but...
I agree, and I think, jokes aside, I think it's partly what we're saying is that he's not enjoying it, and you are enjoying playing chess, and it's one of those things that...
It's easy to play chess when the results don't matter.
Right, and so you're in a different spot, and I think it shows.
Come on. King f6, Pragg. Finish the game. Finish the game off. King f6.
He's got only 20 seconds.
I mean, f5 also is good. f5 also probably just... Yeah, I mean, f5 also works, yeah. King f6 and...
Time pressure.
Yeah, king f6 and then knight d6. King f6, king g4, knight d6, g6, g7. Push the p. Game over.
He did it. He's found.
I mean, you could also go for the beautiful knight h6, king h5, g6 takes g7, king h7, king f7, which also works. But he'll go to d6 just because it's a little bit too stressful.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah. I mean, h6 wins, but you see d6 and you can't stop the pawn. It's all over. So, yeah. Good win for Pragg. So.
Wow. I think
I mean, this is also why one of the things that I've said a lot is, I mean, ultimately, I do think the future of chess, when you look, 10 years down the road, the path is going to run through India. Because honestly, I don't think you can really say that any one of them are better than the others. I mean, on one hand, I feel like Arjun is the best. Sometimes Gukesh is the best. Sometimes Pragg plays these games, and you could argue he's the best. So it's very hard to see a world where if you look like 5-10 years down the road, at least one, if not more, of these guys are at the very top competing for the world championship.
All right, well, last question. I got to do it because it came in from chat. Jack34412 wants to know, Hikaru, how would you feel about replacing Ding in a world championship match if he did retire from chess?
Well, there's something we recorded yesterday, so I probably shouldn't answer this in a certain way because we did a certain lie detector thing yesterday. So, so I'll try to answer this. How do I answer
diplomatically?
This? Everybody's going to hate me for saying this, but it'd be a nightmare. I mean, I have my schedule mapped out very nicely between now and the end of the year, and if I had to play the match, that would be a disaster because I would suddenly have to shift everything and go do it. And frankly, I don't want to do that. So I know people are going to be mad at me for saying that, but that's actually true. It would mess up.
Is there like a deadline for you?
Schedule in my
I mean, legitimately asking, if it was like, look, I actually wouldn't do it if it was a week out, but I would do it if it was a month out.
I would do it kind of no matter what, I guess, but. It would ruin my schedule. And again, I even said this about the candidates that, I took basically a month before the event to prepare. And it cost me a ton of income from streaming that I couldn't do. So, I would play it, but I would say right now I would not be particularly happy about it just because it would ruin my routine, my schedule, and everything that I've set up for the rest of the year. And I don't really need more chess. So, if I would play if I replaced Ding, but I wouldn't actually be all that happy about it.
Yeah. What a wild world that would be, and obviously no one is wanting that for Ding Liren. We're all wishing him the best and hoping, but it is a conversation that we're all having for a reason.
You're going to know that I'm telling the truth when the lie detector stuff comes out.
Okay, we'll do it after the video.
Right.
Okay, do it after the video.
You know why, yeah.
Well, now everyone knows they have even more content to look forward to with Hikaru because that was a very fun video yesterday that you can be ready for. So, all right, man, this is awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. We're gonna dive back into these other games and let you go. And
Great.
This has been great. Best of luck in the rest of the event.
Thank you.
All right.
Good luck for the rest.